3 haunted accounts of sinister events. Discover the spine-chilling truth behind these cursed tales. In the sleepy suburb of Illinois, where the stars flickered like distant warnings, a cursed tale lay buried beneath unassuming lawns. This was no fairy tale. It was the story of Kate, a single mother battling night after endless night at a local diner. Her 2 children, Alex and Lily, were blissfully unaware, lost in their imaginations while shadows crept through the corners of their home. But when those shadows grew bolder, laughter would turn to screams. On a bleak Tuesday, curiosity pulled Alex and Lily down to the damp basement. Far from their cozy living room, the air was thick with abandonment and dread. They stumbled upon a dusty wooden chest, its surface etched with strange symbols that seemed to pulsate in the low light. Inside, they uncovered a diary, a family relic that rattled their very souls. Pages filled with bizarre rituals and haunting accounts of spirits danced in their minds, materializing into whispers around them that night. As Kate returned from yet another unyielding shift, exhaustion lingering in her bones, she was unaware of the low, rhythmic chants echoing in the shadows of their home. It began with the temperature plummeting, her breath turning to fog as she entered the living room. Her heart thudded like a drum, the unsettling silence cloaking her like a cold shroud. For one horrifying moment, she thought she heard faint giggles from the basement. Were her children playing, or was something darker at play? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each passing night, the atmosphere grew thicker, heavier. Cooking utensils began to shuffle on their own, a fork clattering to the ground like an ominous war drum. In the hallway, Alex started to draw strange figures that watched from the darkness, lurking behind the comforting veil of the night. They bore familiar faces, twisted and distorted, muttering secrets of betrayal. The air crackled with tension as Kate stared out the window one evening, watching her neighbors with wary eyes. Mr. Reynolds, the kindly old man who used to bring them cookies, now wore a sinister grin that sent chills racking through her spine. At night, she could feel his presence outside her window, as if he lingered, observing a guardian, or something much more sinister. It became a waking nightmare. Alex pulled Kate aside with wild eyes, muttering about something lurking right beyond the glass. Lily began to sleepwalk, her little feet padding towards the basement, the place where the secrets lurked. Kate stood frozen at the top of the stairs, a scream lodged in her throat as the whispers grew louder, echoing her deepest fears. Desperate, she confronted Mr. Reynolds one evening. As he leaned against the porch railing, shadows danced in the fading light. His eyes twinkled with a knowledge that sent a shot of ice through her veins. Some secrets should remain buried, he warned, his voice smooth as silk, but underlined with malice. The stakes rose as reality spiraled, the walls breathing in malice. Kate felt the threads woven by trust beginning to unravel, revealing the darkness that kept her family tethered to their sanity. Time was running out. She needed to protect her children from whatever had awakened, even if it meant confronting the embodiment of the betrayal that had haunted her since the day their father disappeared. In the chaos of the night, she came face to face with the truth lurking in the diary's pages and the betrayal that had woven its web around their lives. With every thump echoing from the basement, she felt the walls closing in, hearts racing, breaths hitching. The choice was before her: descend into darkness or fight for the light. Could she summon the strength to shield her children from the insidious forces closing in? Or would the whispers of betrayal drag them into the very depths of despair? The true horror was only beginning to unfold. The house was alive that night, groaning under the weight of unseen dread. Kate's heart raced as she heard a scrape from the basement, a sound that tugged at the very fabric of her sanity. The whispering had grown, a cacophony of voices that gnawed at her resolve. Each word was a taunt, echoing the fears that festered in her mind. "Mommy!" Lily's voice called, barely above a whisper. Kate turned sharply. Her daughter, pale and wide-eyed, stood in the hallway, her nightgown billowing like a ghostly spectre. Then, before Kate could react, Lily pointed toward the basement. "They want to play." A chill crawled up Kate's spine, her hands trembling against the coldness of the banister. "No, sweetheart. It's just an old basement. There's nothing down there," she said, even as doubt crept into her mind. Shadows twitched. They flickered just beyond her sight. Lily took a step forward, her little feet eerily silent against the hardwood. "But they say they'll show me secrets." Secrets? The straightforwardness of her daughter's words sent panic racing through Kate's veins. "Lily, come here." In one swift motion, she engulfed her child in her arms. The warmth of the embrace felt like a fragile barrier against whatever darkness lurked just beyond the threshold of their home. "I don't want to go back to sleep," Lily murmured, her voice trembling. Kate glanced into her daughter's eyes, searching for reassurance, but all she found was fear mirrored in the widening pupils. Memories of Alex's frantic whispers and their father's absence crashed around her like waves in a storm, each recalling a time when their family had once known light. "Let us go to the living room," she said, trying to steer her daughter away from the basement. But as Kate led Lily away, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched not just by her child, but by something far darker. As the clock struck midnight, a heavy thud reverberated through the house. Kate froze, her breath catching in her throat. The kitchen lights flickered before dying completely, plunging them into darkness. Panic clawed at her insides. She could barely hear her children's soft breathing over the harsh drum of her own heart. "Mom?" Alex's voice broke through the silence, laden with confusion and fear. He appeared at the edge of the hallway, the faint moonlight casting a ghostly silhouette over him. "Stay close, Alex," she breathed, drawing them into a tight huddle. But as they stood there, whispers danced around them, words just shy of syllables, twisting in the air like a tornado of despair. "Help us, join us." The pleas slipped through the cracks of her mind, seeking purchase in her heart. She could feel the warmth of her children beside her, but fear gripped her. Against the growing tempest of noise, she reminded herself why she was fighting. She had to protect them, no matter the cost. With renewed determination, Kate grasped their hands firmly. "We have to leave this house. Now." Yet, the shadows shifted to block their path, thick like smoke, coiling around their legs like vines. The air became stifling, electric with potential danger. "You can't leave," a voice hissed, distorted and smooth. It felt like more than words, it was a promise lingering in the darkness. "Mom!" Alex screamed, panic spilling from his voice. They were trapped, encircled by the very fears that had refused to remain buried. As the shadows pulsed, Kate felt the ground tremble beneath them, as if the house itself was angry, conscious of their defiance. "What do we do?" she uttered, looking desperately into Alex's wide eyes. Before she could grasp a plan, a scream pierced the still air, a pitiful cry that echoed from the basement. It was the sound of despair, so real, so raw, that the world around her fell away. The whispers intensified, engulfing her in their haunting melody. Could she defy the shadows? As dread mounted, a thought crept in. Perhaps the secret her family longed to unveil was far worse than she ever imagined. What had awakened, and what price would they pay to uncover the truth? The darkness tensed around them, waiting, eager to pull them into its depths. Kate's heart thundered in her chest, each beat echoing the fear twisting through her mind. The house felt like a shark circling prey, waiting for the right moment to strike. The scream from the basement reverberated in her ears, a chilling reminder that something was terribly wrong. "We can't just stand here," she yelled over the whirling whispers, her voice tightening with urgency. With her children still huddled close, she backed away from the encroaching shadows, searching for an escape route amidst the suffocating darkness. But the whispers grew louder, drowning out her thoughts. "Secrets join us," they chimed like a twisted lullaby, pulling her deeper into terror. The words dripped with malice, coiling around her throat like iron chains. "We need to help whoever that is," Alex pleaded, his voice trembling. "It could be someone in danger." "No. We need to stay together," Kate shot back, gripping Lily's hand like a lifeline. She could see the fear in Alex's eyes and felt the weight of indecision press down hard. What if they were being drawn into a trap? But that scream lingered, evoking a primal instinct that clawed at her gut. The basement seemed to beckon them, a dark mouth ready to swallow them whole. "Mommy, please," Lily whimpered, her small face pale and taut. "What if they need us?" In that moment, reality twisted, and Kate felt herself pulled between the veil of fear and a desperate need to protect. The air thickened as the shadows seemed to pulse, brightening for an instant as the shrill wail came again, more desperate this time. Okay. Kate relented, swallowing her dread. "But we have to be careful." Gripping both her children's hands tightly, she steeled herself and began to edge toward the basement door, barely visible in the encroaching darkness. With each step, the house shuddered, the ancient timber groaning in protest as if it were alive, unwilling to yield. They reached the door, its surface cold and slick under her palm. She hesitated, straining to hear anything beyond it. Was it truly a plea for help or a sinister invitation? "On three," she mouthed, her heart pounding against her ribs as her children nodded. 1, 2, 3. With a forceful shove, Kate threw the door open. The basement staircase yawned before them, an abyss swallowing the dim light filtering from above. The air was heavier here, cloying and filled with a stench that made Kate gag. "Who's down there?" she called, not wanting to reveal her fears. Silence answered but for the echoes of her voice, fading into the deep. A flicker of movement flashed in the corner of her eye, and she turned her gaze, her pulse quickening. "Mom, I don't like this." Alex's voice trembled, a mirror of her own doubt. "No, Alex, we can't turn back now," she whispered, forcing down the rising tide of panic. "We have to find out what's happening." With every step down the stairs, shadows twined around them, slithering like vipers. The whispers grew clearer, a disjointed chorus of terrors not meant for human ears. "Join us." Secrets. Just as they reached the bottom, Kate's foot stumbled on something cold and slick. She turned, heart racing, to find a dark pool spread across the floor, absorbing what little light remained. And there, in the center of that morbid pool, lay a small doll, its porcelain face cracked and eyes staring lifelessly at her. Blood smeared across its chest. "Mom!" Lily gasped, clinging tighter to her. Before Kate could pull them back, the door slammed shut above them with a deafening bang, sealing them in darkness. A heavy voice spoke from the shadows, low and menacing. "You should not have come here." Kate felt a surge of terror freeze her in place. What had they awakened in the darkened depths? The shadows leaned in closer, and in an instant, she understood they were not going to let them leave. "Run!" she shouted, yanking her kids toward the steps. But the darkness surged, cutting them off, eager to pull them further into its grasp. What awaited them in the basement? Would they unveil the secret, or would the truth consume them whole? The darkness swallowed them, an oppressive weight pressing down on Kate's shoulders, smothering the air from her lungs. Panic surged through her as her heart hammered against her ribcage like a desperate prisoner. "What do we do?" she whispered, pulling Alex and Lily close. "Do you think they're still here?" Alex murmured, his voice trembling, eyes wide with fear. "Who?" Kate asked, though she feared she already knew the answer. The words lingered in her mind, a fragmented echo of desperation. "Join us." Secrets. A low growl vibrated in the air, scraping against the raw edges of her sanity. The shadows thickened, swirling like oil in water, and glimmers of malevolent eyes flickered in the murky corners. "Mom! I can't see," Lily whimpered, tugging at her sleeve. Kate crouched down and squeezed her daughter's hand tighter. "Look at me, Lily. Just focus on my voice, okay? We're going to find a way out. But the basement was alive with whispers that buzzed in their ears, taunting and beckoning. Sounds of scratching and scuttling made her stomach churn. She had to fight against the urge to flee, to hide in a corner, to wait for a miracle. Instead, she steeled her resolve. "Follow me," she commanded, keeping her grip firm as she stepped forward, inching toward what felt like the far wall. Shadows twisted, reaching for them like spidery fingers, and the air grew colder, the atmosphere thickening with dread. The doll remained a grotesque fixture in her mind, its empty eyes piercing through the murk. It wasn't just a doll, it was a message. A warning. She could feel it vibrating with energy, secrets longing to escape. With each cautious step, splatters of something wet found their way onto her shoe, and Kate stifled a gag. "Mommy, it smells bad," Lily cried, her voice breaking through the creeping despair. "I know, sweetie. Just keep close." Suddenly, the whispers crescendoed, a cacophony of tortured voices overlapping, each word sharper than the last. "Find us, join us," they cried, almost pleading. Their meanings twisted, shifting like smoke in the air, and for a moment, Kate sensed something stirring beneath the layers of darkness. "Hold my hand tightly," she ordered, snatching Alex's other hand as they moved like a chain through the terrible abyss. As they reached the far wall, Kate's fingers brushed against something wood. And then it hit her, a door. She pushed against it, desperation rising in her throat. But just as she pressed her weight into it, a sharp scream pierced the air, echoing from somewhere deeper within the house, carrying a different kind of agony. "Mom!" Alex shouted, eyes darting, scanning the growing shadows. "Don't look." Kate tried to sound brave, but the dread swirled. Reality warped. She needed to get them out. She needed to escape whatever they had woken up. As they struggled against the door that refused to budge, the whispers turned into mocking laughter, drenched in malice. "Secrets will be revealed, join us." With one last push, the door flew open, but it was not the escape she had hoped for. Instead, they stumbled into a cramped space filled with antique furniture draped in white sheets, ghosts of the past lingering, taunting them with memories long forgotten, and there, in the corner, an old mirror stood, its surface clouded and warped. From its depths, inky tendrils snaked out, swirling like smoke in a storm. The reflection looked back, and Kate felt her breath hitch as horrific, twisted forms appeared in the glass, faces she couldn't recognize, mouths moving silently, mouthing unspeakable horrors. "Mom, what is happening? Run!" She screamed, more terrified than ever, but the air thickened, pulling them back. A voice, guttural and malicious, erupted from the mirror, shaking the very walls around them. "You belong to us now." Fevered panic gripped Kate as she realized the truth. This was no ordinary basement. This was a prison. A place of torment. She had opened a veil that should have stayed closed. "Run!" But as they turned, a cold hand brushed against Kate's arm, a whisper of death that sent a jolt of terror through her soul. Could they truly escape? The darkness was alive, and it wanted more than just their fear. The mirror pulsed, its surface rippling like water disturbed by a stone. Kate's heart raced, each beat a countdown to the unknown. The faces trapped within, twisted in agony, were a warning, a promise of suffering that loomed just beyond their reach. She could almost hear their silent screams mingling with the malevolent whispers swirling around her. "Mom, please." Lily's voice wavered, tears shining in the dim light. Kate felt the weight of her daughter's fear settle over her like a heavy blanket. It was suffocating, but she couldn't let it crush her. "Stay close." She pulled Lily and Alex back, urging them away from the mirror that seemed determined to draw them in like a moth to a flame. As she stepped backward, she stumbled over a small, dusty table, cluttered with what looked like old photographs. Each photo was covered in dust, but they were unmistakable images of people trapped in despair, faces obscured but eyes hollow and haunted. Were these the ones who had come before? Suddenly, the laughter rose again, chaotic and disembodied, bouncing off the walls around them. "Join us," it echoed, wrapping around them like a noose. "Don't listen. Keep going," Kate yelled, shaking off the dread that sought to bind her. Almost blindly, she rushed towards the door, pulling the children after her. But the ground felt unstable underfoot, shifting like quicksand. With each step, they fought against an invisible force trying to drag them back into the suffocating darkness. The air thickened, no longer just cold but saturated with something vile. It clawed at her skin, sapping her strength. She felt like a marionette, strings pulled by an unseen hand. "Mommy!" Lily cried out as the shadows seemed to coil, slithering closer, wrapping around her tiny legs. "Hold on tight!" Kate screamed, clamping down harder on her children, flexing every ounce of willpower in her body. As they reached the threshold, a freezing gust of wind rushed through the room, extinguishing the flickering light that shed the slightest hope. Shadows clung to their skin, a clammy chill creeping through Kate's veins. She could barely see anymore, but she could feel a presence looming, growing stronger in the dark. Suddenly, a piercing shriek reverberated through the air, a primal sound that carried with it the weight of centuries of torment. It clawed at her ears, leaving her dizzy with terror. "Get out! Get out now!" The voice wailed, a desperate urgency fueling its haunting call. Just as hope flickered, the mirror shattered, clattering like broken bones, sending shards scattering across the floor. Kate's heart sank, the pieces creating a jagged, terrifying mosaic on the ground. The forms trapped in the glass dissolved, their cries mingling with the air around them, weaving a tapestry of despair that filled her with dread. "Mom, please!" Alex shouted, the fear in his voice rising sharply. Before she could turn, a shadow lunged forward, a distortive figure emerging from within the swirling chaos. Its features shifted, morphing into something unrecognizable, blending flesh and darkness. "You can't escape!" It hissed, a chorus of voices echoing behind it, chanting, "Stay with us." With a strength she didn't know she possessed, Kate charged through the doorway, dragging her children behind her. The darkness wailed, threatening to swallow them whole as they burst into the hallway, gasping for breath. But the escape felt deceptive. It promised freedom that twisted into confusion about where to run. In the hallway, the air was different, heavier somehow, yet the oppressive weight behind them faded for just a moment. "Where now?" she panted, scanning the fading light, desperately searching for a sign, a way out. In the distance, another door stood ajar, glowing faintly, beckoning like a lighthouse amid a storm. "Mom!" Lily shrieked, backing away as the whispers resumed, a haunting lullaby entwined with malice. "What if it's a trap?" Kate's gut twisted. But they had to try. They had to run. She tightened her grip, determination hardening her resolve. "We have to." Before she could finish, the ground beneath them trembled, and a low rumble began, shaking the very frames of the house. The whispers grew into a distorted roar, drowning out her thoughts. "Join us!" Everything became a blur as they stumbled toward the beckoning door, the shadows clawing at their heels. Just before they reached it, a thunderous crash echoed from the basement. The mirror had shattered. Had they really escaped? Or had they simply awakened something much worse? As they fled toward the glowing exit, the darkness howled in fury behind them, a sound that promised it wouldn't be finished. They were not safe yet. And somewhere in the house, something stirred, eager to join the hunt. The whispering door seemed almost alive, its edges oozing darkness, tempting them with its glow. Kate hesitated, her heart pounding like a drum. "What if it's worse in there?" she whispered, fear creeping back into her thoughts. But the desperate urgency from her children kept her feet moving, an instinct sharper than any rational thought. "Mom!" Lily grabbed her arm, her little fingers trembling. "I can't." Alex's wide eyes darted around, as if he could see the shadows creeping closer. "Just a little more," Kate urged, pushing down her own dread. With one final tug, they burst through the door. It was a kitchen, stark and silent, the air unnaturally still. Sunlight streamed through the cracked window, a warm embrace that felt wrong in such a cold place. But the smells would smoke and something rotten twisted the comfort into an unsettling knot in her stomach. Something had lived here once, something alive, and then had died. "Where should we go, Mom?" Alex asked, his voice small as he stared into the dark corners of the room. Kate scanned the kitchen. There was a back door. Could they exit this nightmare? From behind them, something rustled, a dreadful sound like claws scraping against the floor. The laughter echoed again, a wicked melody blending into the rattle of wind outside. "Over there." She pointed toward the door, but before they could move, a figure materialized in the shadows, blocking their way. A tall silhouette with features shifting and contorting, a grotesque parody of life. "Why do you run?" It hissed, voice like sandpaper. "You're meant to stay. Get back." Kate shouted, stepping protectively in front of her children as fear surged through her body. "Join us," echoed behind. The voices, distorted and sharp, began bubbling up again, like a tide of darkness washing over her sanity. "Mom!" Lily cried, grabbing her waist, clinging like she was the only thing keeping Kate upright. In that moment of suffocating terror, desperation ignited something deep within Kate. "Run!" She screamed, more at herself than anyone. "Run!" They dodged past the figure, which recoiled and twisted like smoke in the air. The children bolted toward the back door, and Kate followed, heart racing. They burst onto a porch that led into a yard overgrown with weeds and flickering shadows. The atmosphere felt stale, almost like the air had given up hope many years ago. A moment of relief flooded her mind, but it shattered as the door behind them slammed shut with a deafening clap. Kate turned, panting, and saw the figure warping through the window, its eyes glinting with malevolence. "You can't escape," it sang, the words weaving through the trees like a thread of dread. "What do we do now?" Alex shouted, trembling. But fear clamped around her throat. They could run, yes, but where? The woods loomed beyond the house, whispering secrets of their own. It felt like the very ground beneath her was alive, eager to swallow them whole. "Stay close." She pulled her kids close, as if her embrace could shield them from the horrors swarming around them. "Look!" Lily pointed, eyes wide, her voice trembling. "The gate." Just as hope flickered within Kate's chest, the ground shuddered violently. The trees bowed as if the air itself was being sucked away. Shadows surged towards them, a dark tide that sought to engulf everything. "Mom!" Alex shouted as shadows writhed, desperate hands reaching out. Fear twisted her gut tight. They had to move, had to escape. But the gate, once an open doorway to freedom, now trembled ominously, as if it too had a mind of its own, desiring only to keep them trapped. Taking a deep breath, she pushed forward, ready to confront whatever waited ahead. A final glance back revealed the figure, now grinning wider than ever, its mouth a cavern of darkness. "Join us," and then they surged towards the fence, hoping for salvation, praying the darkness wouldn't swallow them first, some unseen force willing them into the night. What lay beyond the gate was uncertain, yet it was the only chance they had to escape the nightmare. But as they reached the threshold, Kate's heart sank. The laughter returned, ringing louder, mingling with the voices of those who had come before. Had they really escaped the horror? Or was this just another layer of its twisted game? With every ounce of strength, they plunged forward, to face whatever awaited them, still uncertain if they were racing towards safety or merely falling deeper into the abyss. The gate creaked as they pushed through, the sound echoing into the oppressive silence around them. Goosebumps prickled along Kate's arms, and she could feel the shadows trying to claw back at her, reaching out from the woods. She took a deep, shuddering breath, trying to shake the cold dread pooling in her stomach. "What is this place?" Lily's voice quivered, breaking through the darkness that clung to them. "Stay close," Kate whispered, gripping their hands tightly. They stumbled forward into the woods, the towering trees swallowing them into their ancient embrace. The once inviting light from the house flickered out, leaving only oppressive shadows pressing in from all sides. "Mom!" Alex's voice trembled again, this time laced with panic. "What was that thing?" "I don't know," Kate responded, her heart racing. The branches overhead twisted, creaking ominously as if alive, considering their every move. She imagined eyes peering down at them, judging, hungry. Their feet crunched against the dry leaves, the sound swallowed whole by the damp air. It felt like a dream, each step forward weighed heavy with uncertainty and fear. A chill wrapped around them, colder than the air had any right to be. Then came the whispers, curling softly in the breeze, slithering into Kate's mind. Join us," it was haunting, a plea that turned acid in her veins. She shook her head, trying to ignore the voices weaving through the trees. "Don't listen to them," she murmured, more to herself than to her children, but as they moved, the whispers grew louder, more insistent, like fingernails against glass. The sickly sweetness of decay pricked at her nostrils, and she swayed for a moment, the world tilting beneath her. "Mom, I'm scared," Lily whimpered, her tiny body quaking in the cold. "Stay with me, just a little longer," Kate said, forcing a calm she didn't feel. She could feel panic clawing at her throat, but she couldn't let it show. "Not now." Suddenly, a loud snap echoed behind them. Kate's heart lurched, adrenaline pumping fiercely as she turned around. A figure loomed at the edge of the clearing, shrouded in the darkness of the trees. It shimmered at the edges, like heat rising from asphalt but thick and suffocating. "Why don't you stay?" It hissed, a smile stretching impossibly wide across its face, teeth jagged and glistening like shards of glass. "Run!" she screamed, yanking her children after her. They dashed deeper into the woods, branches whipping against their skin, thorns clawing at their clothes. Behind them, the laughter bubbled up, bright and taunting as they ran, blending with the whispers that echoed, "Join us." A sense of urgency pushed them onward, each footfall feeling heavier, the branches clawing like desperate hands. Kate dared a glance back. The figure glided after them, long limbs moving with a fluid grace, its face shadowed but eyes glowing like embers in the dark. "Mom!" Alex shouted again, the fear in his voice clawing at her heart. "Where are we going?" "I don't know." She gasped, the weight of uncertainty sinking in her chest. Just keep running." The woods became a blur, overgrown paths swallowed by darkness. With each stride, Kate felt as though they were being drawn deeper into another world, one where time had no hold. Hours seemed to slip through their fingers, yet desperation surged within her. Then, ahead, a glimmer of light broke through the trees. An empty clearing? Hope kindled within her, pushing them faster, their legs burning. But her exhilaration faded when a loud roar erupted from the shadows, rattling the ground beneath them, a monstrous presence alive among the trees. What was that? Lily gasped, stopping dead in her tracks. Kate's stomach dropped. Before she could answer, the light flickered, grew brighter, and then the entire clearing swallowed itself in darkness, and then silence. "Mom?" came Alex's voice, trembling through the thick void. Kate felt a tremor shoot through her. The world around had changed, and not for the better. Somewhere in that silence lay the answers if she dared to seek them. "We need to keep moving," she said, fear skimming the edges of her voice, knowing they were not alone. But who, or what, awaited them in the silence? They stepped forward, and Kate felt the air grow thicker, as though they were traversing a heavy fog. Every breath became a struggle, her lungs aching from the chill that seeped deeper than skin. She strained her ears for any sound, anything to cut through the bitter quiet. The oppressive blackness felt alive, wrapping around them like a predator coiling its prey. "Mom, I can't see anything," Alex said, voice barely above a whisper, the tension vibrating in the dark. "Just stay close," she urged, pulling them tighter against her. The warmth of her children felt fragile, a comforting ember in the shivering cold, yet in the silence, the shadows shifted. Shapes formed just at the periphery of her vision, teasing at the edges before retreating into the thick blackness. Each flicker surged Kate's heartbeat. Were they real, or just her imagination playing tricks? A low growl rumbled through the air, a warning that sent pulses of ice through her veins. Did you hear that? Lily's eyes widened in the dark, glinting like saucers as fear expanded within her. Yes, Kate replied, forcing a calmness she didn't possess. It's okay. Let us just keep moving. But the deeper they went, the more distorted the world felt. The trees leaned closer, branches twisting like bony fingers ready to snatch at them. Kate knew they shouldn't linger, it would only invite disaster. But had they passed the point of no return already? A wave of dread washed over her as they approached a gnarled oak, ancient and ominous. Its bark twisted like the face of a weeping woman, features sharp and disfigured in the dim light. It felt wrong standing so close, as if it held secrets of the forest deep within its rings. Help us, the whispers returned, swirling around her like a malicious wind. They weren't just voices, they were hearts, souls captured by this wicked place. Mom! What do we do? Alex's terror broke through the stillness, desperation straining at his words. Keep walking. We can't stop, she urged, her voice trembling more than she wanted. They hurried past the tree, its presence haunting, shadows reaching for them as if it were trying to pull them back. That's when the laughter broke out from all directions, high-pitched giggles dancing into the night, echoing the sinister plea to join them. Stop! She hissed, voice cracking as she turned left and right, searching for an escape. But the girl's hands began to slip from hers, seemingly pulled by unseen forces. Kate's heart raced. Mom! Lily cried out, her voice merging with the cacophony of laughter. Not now. Come back. Kate shouted, fear gnawing at her. With a jolt, the darkness shuddered, and before Kate could react, the ground beneath her feet shifted. Tree roots erupted in a frenzied dance, twisting upward like serpents. They slithered toward her children, a sinister attempt to ensnare them in the darkness. No! Stay away! Kate screamed, lunging forward, but it was as if a wall of air pressed against her, rooting her to the spot. The whispers turned to screams, then laughter once more, circling around her, growing in volume until it became a deafening roar. It felt like being submerged, all light swallowed by chaos. Then, just as suddenly, silence returned, but this time it was suffocating, oppressive. The laughter faded away, leaving Kate to face her own breath, shallow, frantic. Lily? Alex? She called, the words hanging in the void, swallowed whole before they could touch her kids. Frantic, she fumbled around her, seeking them out in the wavering darkness. She heard a rustle, a shifting sound, followed by a soft whimper. Mom! Relief flooded her just as swiftly as a new wave of terror rolled in. The figures emerged from the dark, but they did not belong to her children. Two pale beings, eyes wide and shimmering with the same haunting glow that radiated from the forest. Join us, they beckoned, their voices filled with a ghoulish delight. They reached out, fingers stretched long and thin, as if to grasp her soul. With a surge of instinct, Kate screamed, "Get back!" And in that moment, she felt the pull of the forest tighten. Desperation clawed at her. What if the laughter meant they had already passed the point of no return? She took a step back, heart racing. Who were these lost souls, and what had they done to deserve such a fate? Then, behind the figures, more shapes began to slither forward, faces twisting in the gloom, drawn toward her like moths to a flame. Kate knew they were running out of time. The only way out was to confront whatever this nightmare was. But in this darkness, what awaited her could either be salvation or damnation. What darkness lay in wait just beyond the edge? Would she find her children or something far worse? The ground shuddered beneath her feet, as if the forest itself was alive, shifting and writhing in anticipation. Kate's breath quickened, a frantic rhythm that matched her racing heart. The shadows crept closer, snaking through the air, thickening like a weight around her throat. "Mom! I can't find them." Lily's voice became a distant echo, swallowed by the depths of the dark. "Stay close, please," Kate shouted, her voice cutting through the stillness, a desperate plea barely above a whisper. Panic clawed at her insides, making every syllable feel like a struggle. She could only see those pale figures, their eyes glimmering with an otherworldly hunger. The creatures held her gaze, their smiles growing wider, mirroring a twisted curiosity that made her skin crawl. "Join us," they whispered again, the words seeping like poison into the air. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but her feet felt rooted, stuck in a nightmare where escape felt impossible. She turned, scanning the void for familiar shapes, searching for the warmth of her children. Memories flashed in her mind: laughter, weekend camping trips, warmth of family, but they were fading, like smoke. "Alex. Lily." Her voice broke into fragments, slashing through the quiet, but there was no answer, only the rustles and whispers returning like vultures to a carcass. The newfound stillness suffocated her, matching the oppressive air that filled her lungs. The laughter returned, higher now, spilling from the dark corners around her. It wasn't just a sound, it was a wave, a sinister force that crashed against her, threatening to drown her sanity. "Mom!" A small voice cut through, but it didn't belong to either of her children. A tiny figure stepped into the glow of the nearly invisible moon. The child looked eerily similar to Alex, yet there was something decidedly wrong. The child's face was streaked with shadows, eyes glowing with that haunting light, and a grin that twisted the features beyond recognition. "Help me!" it called, but its voice was the echo of 1,000 lost souls trapped beneath the forest floor. "No!" Kate screamed, realizing that it was a lure, merely another puppet of the night. She felt a shiver run down her spine, making the hair on her arms prick up. She couldn't trust this place or its inhabitants. The figures moved behind, their fingers stretched longer, claws emerging as they clamored toward her. She turned, desperate, and bolted down an unseen path, the gnarled branches grabbing at her clothes like hands reaching to pull her back. Adrenaline fueled her as she ran, breath quickening, heart hammering. She could almost hear the snapping of branches beneath her feet, the forest thrumming with the pulse of something willing her to stop, to give in. "Mom! Help!" The voice echoed again, but it was splintered now, mixing with laughter, weaving a textile of terror as it drew her deeper into the woods. "Lily! Alex!" she cried, her feet pounding against the forest floor, but the laughter turned to shrills, encircling her like hungry wolves. The branches closed in, pushing her toward a clearing that felt like a maw opening wide, the darkness beckoning her to enter. Just beyond the threshold loomed an ancient structure half consumed by the earth, crumbled like a forgotten ruin. It was like the heart of the forest, breathing shadows and anticipation. The figures swirled around her, urging her to step across the threshold, their smiles never wavering, even as the whispers turned frigid, biting at her resolve. This could be her last chance to find her children or the point of no return. But hidden in the tangle of branches was a truth, dark and gnashing. What awaited her within that ruin? Would it offer answers or more questions, horrors she couldn't bear to face? As she took a trembling step forward, determination mingled with terror. The forest held its breath, and Kate could feel the eyes of the night on her. What lay beyond that cursed door? Would those lost souls welcome her, or would they lead her to a fate no mother should ever face? The forest loomed as Kate took her first step into the ruin, a chill sweeping through her as shadows flickered like broken promises along the walls. The twilight thickened, intertwining with her heart, a mesmerizing dance of despair and hope. "Stay close," she breathed, her voice hovering just above a whisper as she felt her children's presence slipping through her fingers. The inside of the structure felt ancient, each wall steeped in echoes that seemed to taunt her. The air grew denser, filled with a dampness that wrapped around her like a shroud. In the low light, twisted shapes draped in shadows appeared almost alive, waiting for her to make a move. She strained her ears, willing the silence to break with even a whisper of reassurance. "Mommy! Came a reply, distant yet familiar, stirring something fierce within her. A spark ignited in her chest as she tore away from the grip of fear. "Lily! Alex!" she yelled, desperation spilling over. The forest answered with a cacophony of rustles and whispers, the very structure beneath her feet vibrating with malice. "Help us, join us," echoed again, but this time layered with her children's voices. The whispers morphed, melding into something more sinister. Kate shoved the fear down into the depths of her gut. She had to fight back, for them. "Come on," she urged, her voice steadying as she ventured deeper, her footsteps determined. She could almost see them, a flicker of hope dancing just beyond grasp. "We're coming." The windows of the ruin gaped like dark eyes watching her every move. Then the ground quaked, and Kate stumbled, arms outstretched for balance. Cracks widened, snaking like the fear clutching her heart, urging her to forget what lay ahead. A dull roar echoed, brushing past her, mingled with those haunting giggles that crawled under her skin. "Mom! Don't go!" Alex's shout broke her focus, pulling her back from the edge of despair. She turned and pressed forward, forcing her legs to carry her further into the husk of the ruin. Every shadow clawing at her back felt real, every whisper marked her resolve. "We won't let them take you," she cried, summoning every ounce of strength as she raced against the tide. "Follow the light," a distant voice urged, but it twisted out of her grasp like a mirage. It felt like fleeing a nightmare where the exit was always moving. "Mommy!" Lily's voice filtered through once more, breaking Kate's heart wide open. The rawness made the shadows tremble. With renewed vigor, she plunged through the ruin's shifting architecture, searching desperately for her children, the echoes of laughter morphing into howls of fury. Finally, she burst into a chamber, its size unfathomable. In the center, she stumbled upon a glimmering source of light, an ethereal orb hovering just above the ground, casting a hue reminiscent of warmth and belonging. Faced with the pulsing glow, a sense of familiarity washed over her. It was the embodiment of her children's laughter. Was this the key she needed? "Lily! Alex!" she cried, running to the light. As she reached out, the chamber shook again, the light dimming momentarily. Then she sensed movement. Shapes flickered from the shadows, filling the room not with darkness, but with the faces of those who had come before. They looked lost, yearning for rescue, and in that moment, Kate understood they needed her help too. "Join us," they pleaded, their eyes wide and remorseful, tugging her deeper into their world. "No!" she cried, forcing each word through her clenched throat. "I will not be another lost soul. I must save my children." The orb pulsed brighter, a thrum that echoed the power of her maternal spirit. She felt an electric connection between herself and the trapped souls, a collective tether made of grief and forgotten promises. In a flash of insight, she spoke, her voice piercing through the ether. "I'll help you find peace. But let my children go." The figures paused, hesitation flitting across their faces like a flickering candle in a storm. Her heartfelt plea sunk into the heart of the room. For an instant, silence blanketed them, the whispers drowning out into the folds of time. With a jarring clash, the shadows receded. The orb surged, enveloping her in warmth and illuminating the faces of her children as they appeared through the twisting darkness. "Mom!" they shouted, arms stretched toward her, acknowledging the fire burning in her heart. "Hold on!" Kate yelled, diving toward their outstretched hands as the light absorbed the shadows, snuffing them out with a swift, blinding crescendo. With a mighty rush, she pulled her children in and felt a rush of warmth envelop them, a surge of love that wiped away years of buried sorrows, and then they were outside. Air rushed in as they stumbled into the clearing, the moon overhead blazing bright. The ruins lay behind them, a forgotten darkness retreating into whispers as a sense of peace settled around them, a healing balm over the wounds etched in their hearts. Alex and Lily gripped her tightly, their faces lit with relief, and Kate held them close, grasping the magnitude of their survival. They were together, and she would never let them go again. As the first glimmers of dawn broke over the horizon, Kate understood. The dark spirits would no longer haunt her, they were bound to their choices, and she chose love, protection, and light. Kate breathed deeply, chest rising and falling in gratitude as she gathered her children close. We did it, we're safe. The remnants of the past faded just ashes in the light of hope. Mom, I was scared, Lily whispered, clutching her tightly, and Kate nodded, wiping tears from her eyes. I know, sweetheart, she replied softly, trembling remnants of fear still lingering in her voice. But the darkness is gone now. We are free. It was not just a goodbye to the past, it was a rallying cry for new beginnings, brighter days ahead. Together, they stepped forward into the dawn, hand in hand, ready to face whatever lay next. Now that the tale has come to a thrilling conclusion, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the stories coming your way. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this stunning ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand how crucial it is to support the channel. Let us keep the adventures alive.